High school sports, the one thing that kept a lot of us going while in school. Because in reality, if it wasn't an option for any of us, then we probably would have found some bad ways to occupy our time. You know, like gang banging, falling into teenage pregnancy, both. And I'm not saying that people who do compete in sports don't fall into those, categories or are a victim of those things, but it is a little less likely to happen. But also, if you're good at sports but you suck at schoolwork and things of that nature, then your coach might slide your teacher a quick 20, to get you some minutes and playing time. Make sure you don't become ineligible. But no, I'm joking. In all seriousness, today's video is going to be what your high school sport says about you. I made a video similar to this, but it was only about football. So it was about football positions. So yeah, I'm not going to be talking too much in this intro. I'm going to just get straight into it. First up, football. American football is the one sport where you can see a jack dude and the skinniest dude in the school, all on the same field. Plus, football is the most accessible sport if you just want to do something in school. Because having depth is something that's very important for a coaching staff. I don't know about y'all's school, but back in my day, I'm saying that like I'm freaking 50 or something. A quick way to tell if someone was on the team is if they were wearing their game day shirts. Yes, we had game day shirts that were issued to us by the school. We weren't wearing suits and ties to the games, unfortunately. I know a lot of y'all dudes who played in freaking the 90s wore your suits and ties to school, and if you didn't wear your suits and ties, you couldn't play in the game. And y'all claim we don't have discipline and all that good stuff because of all that and whatever. But football was that one sport where everyone showed up to the game. And if you're anything like me and you didn't play varsity football until your senior year, but you started, you felt that switch flip real quick. Like the hoes actually knowing who you are. Hell, they might even ask to wear the freaking number on their face and freaking make you a game day basket, some of that nature. If you were someone who didn't play, then probably the best time for you was eating before and after the games. Because you were just messing around with your dudes, especially if all y'all kind of just didn't play. And maybe there was just one dude in a friend group who was kind of nice. I mean, yeah, you could mess around on the sideline during the game, but because you actually kind of did want to go in, you kind of paid real good attention just so you could be ready. But if you were like that and you were actually trying to get offers, life was good. Because every hoe within a 25-mile radius wanted you. And you were visiting college campuses every weekend. Over here getting invited to the LSU training facility. Touring the locker room, putting the jerseys on. You go in the parking lot, see a bunch of Hellcats, all them niggas telling you, yeah, that's the NIL money. And yeah, that was that. But if you want an in-depth on the positions of football, go to the first video like this that I made. It's called What Your Football Position Says About You. That's gonna give you a more in-depth of, the football scene. I don't want to talk about this one too much because basically I already did a video on it. Next up, we got basketball. I don't know how it is now, but when I was in school, hoopers had that black hoodie, black sweatpants, Nike slide combo with your hooping shoes in your backpack. On me, you couldn't tell me that wasn't the default varsity hooper. Now, this is going to be relatable to most likely a lot of y'all, but I was in school during the light skin era. You know when any light skin on a planet could take your girl? So most of the niggas who were real nice on the team were light skin, looking like the Ball brothers and all that stuff. I'm telling you, go to a good basketball school, half them niggas look like Michael Ealy. Half them niggas look like Jordan Poole. One thing about basketball players is that they have the fastest metabolisms. Like all the hoopers I knew had pretty garbage diets. Niggas eating fast food 3 times a day, drinking soda and all that. Niggas never gain weight. But yeah, when you're doing all that conditioning, I ain't gonna lie, it don't matter. One of my freaking hot takes I will say that I have is that basketball players have the hardest conditioning. But as a football player, I don't know why we thought this, but we all thought we were super nice at basketball. To the point where a team of 5 varsity football players could beat a team of 5 varsity hoopers. And if you lose that pickup game, you swear you can beat the JV on everything. And I mean, like, yeah, there were niggas who on the football team were nice at basketball, but that's because they've also just been playing that basketball for a while. Or even like basketball was their main sport and they were just really good at football as well. But I ain't gonna lie, most football players look like 2022 Draymond Green when they play basketball. Just stomping on niggas and shit. Literally the way that football players like warm up, and I can literally admit to this, is seeing the rim, running, jumping, touching the rim, and just hanging on it. Like I actually thought we could dunk, but touching the rim, hanging on it, and dunking are 2 different things. As a basketball player, for some reason, it looked like they could always pull easier hosts, mainly because they were always traveling like at tournaments and stuff, so they were always seeing like different schools. Hell, they even went on like just team trips sometimes because they got way less people than a football team, so a team trip could actually like work on a basketball team. Like y'all know that scene from Coach Carter where they went to that party after that tournament? All y'all hoopers, let me know if that scene has some realness to it. Next up, we got baseball. I know this is probably different from other places when I was in school. The majority of the baseball team when I was in school consisted of white guys with mullets, who 70% of the time, wore their red flags on their belts, if you knew what I mean. And I'm not saying that about every person who plays baseball, but from what I experienced, seemed like a good amount of them. Might not be you, just saying it seemed like a good amount of them. And yeah, I know in California, the baseball kids were probably the guys who drove G-Wagons to school. And in Florida, the baseball kids were probably all Dominican, Puerto Rican, Venezuelan. Get the gist. But in Texas, the baseball players were mainly wearing cowboy hats, cowboy boots, listening to Morgan Wallen on repeat, going to those country dance clubs in downtown Fort Worth, 6th Street, and driving big-ass lifted trucks. But hey, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Baseball is one of the hardest, if not the hardest sport to be fundamentally good at, and I think it's the sport that probably takes the most skill. Being able to hit a 99-mile-per-hour fastball coming straight down the middle is stupid crazy. But then again, you gotta keep in mind, a lot of people who have been playing baseball for a long time have been training since they were like 3 years old. And that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. I mean, when I was a kid, I was just scared of freaking the baseball dropping in the air. Like, I didn't want to stand under it and catch it. Another thing about baseball is there's a lot of like different body types, kind of like football, but the thing is they're all dang near almost slightly doing the same thing. In baseball, I know there's different positions, but you can catch the biggest guy on the team at first base. You can catch the biggest guy on the team at third base, even like maybe center field, or even pitching. And the thing is, if you played baseball and you were conventionally attractive, you were gonna pull something. Like, you weren't pulling a hose or nothing, but you could at least get one-eyed looking girl. And in all actuality, that's all you need. Next up, we got soccer. Now, as a guy who played soccer for 1 year in high school, I feel like this topic's a little more in my ballpark, compared to basketball and baseball. One thing about soccer players, or footballers, for those of you who aren't in the US, is that they have better lower bodies 9 times out of 10 than football players. And another thing, soccer practice is way more fun than football practice. I said it because in actuality, no one can actually admit that they liked or loved football practice, because the thing about football practice is there's always that one guy who hits super hard in practice but he sucks in the game. Freaking coaches are always on ass, it's hot as hell. And it's the place where you have to mess up. But hey, that's the difference between people like me and the people who make it to the league. They get through practice. And like I said, I don't think they liked it. I think it was just something that they really wanted to do. And yeah, that's what separates the big boys from the pack. But yeah, back on topic. In soccer, you're either scrimmaging or you're doing like scenario drills. And call me a little pussy if you want, but in my opinion, that's way more fun. It's not as rewarding, but fun. Hey, what's the point of doing something if you're having fun, right? Most of the soccer players when I was in school were Hispanic, which probably isn't a surprise for y'all. But the second biggest demographic of soccer players were white people. I remember everyone at school being surprised when they saw that I had a kid on. Talking about I didn't know black people play soccer. And I didn't go to a super Caucasian school, but, people just kind of stayed in their lane. But yeah, black people play soccer. Anything that requires an athletic ability, black people are going to be good at it in some way, shape, or form. Except for swimming. Last on the list, we got track and field. Now, track and field is one of the sports that has the potential to be the best, but also the potential to be the worst. At my school, track athletes were mainly athletes from other sports. And the coaches were from other sports as well, mainly football. In my opinion, the conditioning for track is the second worst conditioning behind basketball. Like, if I'm running a short distance race, I shouldn't be having to run so damn much. One thing as a track athlete is if you skate through leg days, when you're doing all that sprinting, that's gonna help get your body back to an even proportion. You know, instead of being built like an ice cream cone. If you don't go to a school that's top tier that has trophies on every shelf that you turn to, or some of that nature type of school, then you probably had that experience where you were watching a teammate run and they got last by a large amount. Or it was probably you that happened to. Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro, that'd probably always be one of the worst feelings when running track. Especially when it happens in multiple events. Like, it's one thing to finish like half a second and be last behind the person who was second to last. It's like, okay, you were in the race, this and that. That's more common in like a 100-meter, but it's also not the best. But then it's a completely different other thing if you're finishing like 15 seconds behind. Like, you actually need to start using practice to figure that out and get better. Another humbling moment as a track athlete is when the fastest dude in your school gets like smoked by a bunch of other people from other schools. Like, that lets you know like how like raw other schools really are compared to your school. That I ain't gonna lie, that it's like, damn, we ain't even in the same stratosphere as these other dudes. But yeah, hey, that's the end of the video. Appreciate you for watching. You know, if you made it this far, I appreciate you, I really do. Been gone for a while, you know, I'm getting better. I'm setting goals, this and that. I'm not gonna go too long in this outro, not gonna give excuses on a bunch of stuff, but yeah, I'm gonna try and tighten up, you know, and hopefully see you next week, all right?